back to another video on my channel. Today we are joined by Vendetta, my boa constrictor, who will probably be putting his face in my face the entire video because that's what he always does. Currently doing it right now. So in today's video, I'm sure I'm going to press a lot of buttons, but I'm going to be sharing my opinion because we are going to be talking about if keeping larger reptiles is ethical or not. Because it's something that's important, it's something that bothers me, it's something I see all the time happening the wrong way, so I feel like it's important to talk about it because the more education there is about these animals, the more these animals will be taken care of properly or even get avoided being purchased in the first place by people that aren't really going to be putting in the full effort with them in the first place. So to answer the question, is it ethical to keep large reptiles? It is not a yes or no question. It always depends on the situation at hand. So there are people that are going to do it the right way and there are people that are going to do it the wrong way. And a lot of the time I see it being done the wrong way, unfortunately. So I feel like it's important to talk about this and how we can avoid these situations because the animals end up suffering in the end and that's not something that I want to see happen. So as we all know, there are people that don't have very much knowledge on reptiles. They don't do research before buying animals. They go to reptile shows, they go to Petco, whatever the case may be. They see a really cute baby sulcata tortoise, a really cute baby savanna monitor, even a cute little reticulated python, and they think, oh, that's so easy to take care of. It's just a little snake. Fast forward a few years, and this animal is much larger than when they first purchased it, and it's become a handful. It's too much to deal with. It's too expensive to feed. There's not enough space for it. They don't have the time for it. It's way more than they expected to have to deal with, and in the end, they end up releasing these animals in the wild and messing up ecosystems or just putting them on Craigslist and giving them to whoever else who's not going to take care of them properly. So I want to avoid these situations because it happens all of the time. My main point on this channel is always to do your research before buying a reptile, and that is the number one thing because you see it all the time. It's so weird at reptile shows, like they're literally like kids that just buy reticulated pythons. Breeders don't say anything. They assume their parents know what's going on. The parents don't really know what's going on. The kid doesn't really know what's going on. And that snake is going to be such a huge responsibility and the kid isn't going to take care of it in the end. So these situations need to be avoided. I think in these situations, obviously it is not ethical to be keeping a large reptile. I think everyone should have their own boundaries set. They should know what they can handle, what they can commit to, because big reptiles, I feel like their commitment level is very similar to like literally if you want to have your own child. And that may sound completely absurd, but I mean, just look at your life and picture you having a 20-foot reticulated python in your house. That's kind of a big responsibility. Like, it's huge. It's such a huge responsibility. Even a huge savanna monitor or a tortoise in your backyard. People always think tortoises are so cute. You do not understand how destructive a tortoise can be. I haven't had one, so I don't have the experience, but I have heard the stories and it is insane. So big reptiles are big responsibilities. So that's something to keep in mind. If you really are interested in getting a large reptile, you need to really do your research and think about things that you can handle. For me personally, a boa constrictor is a very large snake. They get very thick, and I feel as though this is the largest type of snake that I would be comfortable handling. I am a pipsqueak, don't have very much muscle. I don't think I can handle a reticulated python, so that's never something that I would get because I don't think I can fully commit to taking care of that animal on my own for its entire lifespan because of its size. So that's just a matter of making a responsible choice before you buy a reptile. If you're making a responsible choice and doing things the right way, then obviously if you want to keep a large reptile and you can do it properly, then yes, it can be an ethical situation, but most of the time it's not, and it's just very unfortunate. Another thing to keep in mind, especially if you're looking to get a new reptile, is just to look up how big that reptile is going to get because people are just like astounded at how big these animals can get because they see this tiny little baby reticulated python or the tiny little baby savanna monitors, which are like the cutest little things ever. And they always have like 20 of them in like a tiny little tank, and They don't seem like they're that big of a responsibility, but they totally are going to end up being one day. And that's something that you must always keep in mind. You just have to do your research before getting a big reptile because it is the biggest commitment of your life. Probably not your life, but it's a really, really big commitment. Another thing to keep in mind when you're keeping large reptiles is that they're large animals, so they're gonna require a large amount of food. And so you may think, oh, that's not a big deal for a snake because I only have to feed it once a week. However, when you have a really, really large snake, you're gonna have to be feeding it really, really large meals like rabbits, and that's going to be a whole other thing. I don't even really know where to buy rabbits because I don't have to do that for any of my animals. I'm assuming it's at reptile shows. But I mean, again, that's something to keep in mind. I'm sure that's going to end up getting pretty pricey to be buying these big rabbits to feed your snake. Another thing for me personally when it comes to space, I live in an apartment. I don't have much space. I don't plan on getting any more reptiles while I live here. And then even when I do move out, I would just like to upgrade everyone's enclosure and just go all out for them. But one thing that people always ask me, because I always say that caiman lizards are my dream lizard, I would absolutely love to own one, but I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, I'm never going to own one in my life. And that is just a matter of me being responsible because I don't think I can provide the best life that I would want that animal to have. So that is because caiman lizards require a lot of land space to bask. They also require a ton of space to swim as well. So they would literally need like an entire room that's practically like a rainforest to be suitable for them. Or I feel like the only other way to do it would be to literally just have a backyard and dedicate the backyard to a caiman lizard if I live in like Florida or something. But I live in Chicago and it is cold. I don't have the space. Maybe one day, but again, like for me, I feel as though the larger animals require so much space than people recommend in the hobby. I always see people keeping like tegus or Savannah monitors and like 4x2 enclosures. I personally just don't find that to be large enough. I feel like they literally would deserve an entire room. And that would be maybe adequate, but even then, like they're just such intelligent animals. Any type of a monitor, I just feel as though they just maybe shouldn't be pets. It's really, really difficult. And I know like people love keeping them and they're going to get really triggered by this video. But me personally, I just don't think that they make the best pets because they just deserve more space, and I don't see how people can provide that unless you're like super rich and you have all this space and you can go all out, because those people can do it right. But a lot of the time I think that it's way too common that people buy big reptiles and they're just doing bare minimum, and it's just kind of depressing. Like even like water monitors just to have a water bowl, like that just kills my soul. And same for caiman lizards. Animals that love swimming, they should have the opportunity to swim. They should literally have a pool to swim in at the very least. So people that can't supply that but they're still keeping the animal, it just seems ethically wrong to me, because those animals deserve more, and I feel as though we should be required to provide more for those animals. So that's just my opinion on it. I'm sure people are going to disagree because it's so common for people to keep those animals and they don't have the space to do it. So they do the best that they can, but I just don't think that is the best that those animals should have. So in those cases where people think it's okay, I'm like, I don't know. I just don't agree with it. So that's just my opinion. Reticulated pythons, I think that they deserve really, really large enclosures. People say snakes don't like to move around. They say ball pythons don't like to move around. They need to move around. I mean, these snakes, it's so common to see the larger snakes like Burmese pythons. They get so overweight in captivity because they're crammed in these enclosures, and people say all they do is hide all day. And that's not true. It's because that's literally all they're able to do in that enclosure. If you give them more space, I guarantee you'll see way more behaviors that they're able to do that they weren't able to do in the old small enclosure. So I don't know. This is just what I think about all of this. I think that these animals, the larger animals, deserve way more than the hobby says is okay. So that's why I don't plan on keeping any large reptiles aside from my boa constrictor, because I want to get him a really large enclosure one day and just go all out. I don't think I can handle anything much larger or provide the amount of space and enrichment for the animal if it's way too big, because they just deserve so much more. That's just my opinion. A large reptile deserves a large amount of space, and the hobby just says that bare minimum 4-foot, 6-foot enclosures are okay. I just don't agree with it. I think that they deserve more. I absolutely think that if they were given it, they would utilize it, and that speaks volumes. So just to recap, I know this is like a super ranty video and it's just completely opinion based and everything. I'm not really educating anything. I'm just sharing my opinion. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on this as well. Hopefully I didn't offend too many people, but I'm sure it's going to happen. But I mean, I think it's important to talk about these things because in the end, all we want is better for these animals. And maybe if you are keeping your animal in a little bit too small of an enclosure and this opens your eyes in some way, maybe we can actually form that new requirement and give these animals more space rather than the bare minimum and just come to a new standard of reptile keeping. So yeah, just to recap, I think that it can be ethical to keep some reptiles. In most cases, I don't think that it's being done ethically. I think that we can do better in the hobby. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear your opinion on this. And I hope that this video was maybe helpful in some way, maybe opened some eyes. I just want to get a conversation going, to be honest. That's what I want. So, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about keeping big reptiles as pets. Do you think it's ethical or not? Please let me know. We can talk about it in the comments. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.